Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. What you just heard was a comparison between my Victory V40 head that's running through a Universal Audio aux box and then the capture of that head, which is done with a quad Cortex and the new V2 version of capturing that they've released. So I did say in a previous video that I was going to show you how I captured my rig into the quad Cortex, but I'm not going to do that today because I kind of did it in my last video where I showed how I captured the default preset in the new John Mayer plugin. So it's basically the same thing, you're just running your head through the aux box and into your QC instead of your interface. But yeah, if you're trying to work out how to do it exactly, just drop me a comment and I'll get back to you on how I've done it. So today is more about how it sounds. I'm going to show you exactly how I've set the patch up in the QC. And I'm going to compare it to the aux. So the aux has a great cab sim in there. I remember when the aux first came out, and they were basically saying that it's not IRs, it's their own way of modeling cab sims. So they are very, very good, but I'm going to try and do it fairly similar in the quad Cortex. I'm going to find, I don't think I can find the exact same cab setup, but I can find a very similar Fender Twin, which is what I'm using on the aux, and then mic it up exactly the same way. And yeah, that's really going to be the main difference. Now, when I've done the quad Cortex capture in V2, you'll have to trust me, they sound exactly the same. When you do the reference, when it ticks between the reference and then the new capture, I can't tell the difference. And during that, you are technically using the same cab sim. But when I'm showing you now, I'm going to be unplugging my guitar between the aux and then the QC as well, so you can hear how I've set it up in both. So this might be a video for people that are potentially planning to get rid of their rig live and want to gig and tour with a small unit, and then essentially capturing your live sound into the pedal. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. I don't think there's a wrong or right way. There are better ways, but I feel like I've done it the best that I can, and it's all about getting your levels right, but you can see that when you're doing the capture. You literally, it tells you have to hit on the output, try and hit your peaks at minus 12 decibels, and then your input is going to be what you normally set your input to, depending on which guitar you're using in the QC. So that's just standard stuff when you first get your quad Cortex that you're going to be doing anyway. And yeah, you basically just want to hit your guitar hard with whatever pickups you're using at the time and turn the input up or down so that it's just about hitting the line and then you're not going into the red. So as well as my Victory V40, I've also captured my pedal board. I basically wanted to capture my whole rig that I was using before I got a QC and put it in there. So on that pedal board, it's pretty small. I've got a compressor, a hyperluminal dark glass compressor. I know someone's probably going to say in the comments that's for bass, but it works really, really well for guitar. There is actually a guitar setting that you can switch it to. I've done that where you plug the pedal into your computer and turn it into guitar mode essentially. But yeah, it's a very awesome pedal, quite expensive, but yeah, you almost can't hear it. It's more of a feel thing, which is what I want a compressor to feel like. Then I've got a mini tube screamer, mainly because I didn't have room on the board, and I think it sounds great. I think it stands up against some of the actual tube screamers. And then I've got the Thorpe FX Dane pedal, which is awesome. I think it contrasts the tube screamer really well. Now I did get into some reading about tube screamer captures, and apparently they don't capture very well. But I'm going to talk to you exactly about how I'm capturing those pedals because I've done it two different ways to see what's better. And yeah, that might give you some options on how to capture your pedals. But regarding capturing the pedals, I didn't put them through any sort of load. I just plugged them straight into the QC and turned on whichever pedal I was capturing at the time and left everything else off. This might not be the right way to do it, so please leave in the comments if there is a better way. The other way I'm going to talk to you in more detail about once I've got my guitar in my hands. But essentially it's capturing a snapshot of your head with that pedal on, because then it's going through the aux box, it's got a load, and they're reacting together, which is how pedals and tube amps work best when they're working together. So yeah, I think the best thing to do to start with is show you some screen grabs of Cortex Control and the aux software, just to show you exactly how I've set up these presets before we take a listen in detail. And yeah, these captures are on the cloud. So in the description of this video, you'll find the link and you can download them and have a play with them yourself. You know, if you've always wanted to try out a Victory V40, I honestly think these captures are really, really good. And like I say, when you play them back to back with the same cab sim on, I honestly can't tell the difference. And I think that's a big thing to be said about real amps, real tube amps, and digital. There's this huge debate, obviously, always regarding analog and digital. I still love both. The Quad Cortex is so easy to get the sound you want, and personally, I think they've cracked it in terms of recording. I would quite happily use just the Quad Cortex for recording with a real nice IR on it. Because I think it sounds just as good as when I plug the Victory in through the aux box and then record that. So it's obviously easier to do, and I've got the versatility. You know, I've only got one amp here, one valve amp. I used to have a Marshall, but now I've just got the Victory. And yeah, it sounds great, but it does one job. It's a really good, clean pedal platform. Whereas the QC, if I need something for one of the songs on my solo project, I can grab any sound I want, any capture I want, and yeah, I've got it all on that pedal. But when it comes to actually playing, I still do turn the Victory on. I just like having a bit of reverb on it. The settings on this, the volume's on like 9 o'clock, and then the master's on full, so it's got all that headroom, but it sounds sort of crystal clean. It's on voice 1, which is like the Californian style setting. The mid kick is off, and then the treble, middle, and bass are all on noon, and the reverb's off. That's another thing when you're capturing, don't capture the reverb, just put it on a block afterwards in the QC. But yeah, playing that amp in the room just feels great because it's coming through an actual guitar cabinet, and guitar cabinets were made to be loud and sound loud, and studio monitors are made to sound flat so you can mix on them. And yeah, it's just never going to sound like a guitar amp in the room. I don't know about FR cabs. I've never tried them, if that's what they're even called. I don't know what that stands for. But I know people might want to use those live. They might want to capture their rig in the QC and still have that cab on stage. If I was to do that, I would probably just run my Quad Cortex through the effects loop in my head, so I'm still getting that power section of the amp. And I've got the cab on stage as well. But yeah, that's probably how I would do it, seeing as I've got that. And yeah, it's good to kind of have the mix of tubes and digital at the same time, I guess. But yeah, I don't think you're ever going to replace that that vibing in the room with a cab. I do a lot of writing like that. If it's just clean stuff, just sat here with the amp on, bit of reverb. I barely even plug the pedal board in. It's just creating sort of clean, nice, almost like playing an acoustic guitar. And then yeah, when it comes to recording or doing stuff like this where I'm doing videos and demos, I'll put the QC on. But don't get me wrong, the QC is probably getting 90% of the use right now compared to the amp. Okay, let's dive into the computer and we can see how I've set these patches up. Okay, so let's take a look at the aux software first. Obviously, if you're using a different load box, yours will be different, but I'd imagine they do similar things. Now I'm using the 2Verb, which is the Twin Reverb emulation, and I believe it's, well, I did some research on it, and apparently it's the Jensen vintage speakers, 12-inch speakers. So I found something similar in the QC. Not exactly the same, but similar. And then, yeah, I haven't changed any of this. We've got two mics in stereo, so we've got mic 1 and mic 2, a 57 and a 160. And you can see they're straight down the middle, no panning on this. And yeah, I'm just getting a good level on each, balanced, and then no room mics on this because I haven't put any on the QC. And then basically I'm just getting a decent level on the aux software when I'm hitting the guitar. Just making sure it sounds good before I go into the QC, and that is where I will set my output to be hitting peaks of around -12, which is what it recommends for the capture. The only other thing I've got on here is a plate reverb, because that's the only reverb that's in this software. And yeah, I've basically set it similar to a normal plate reverb block in the QC. So let's head over to the QC. Cortex control, and this is how I've set up the preset. This is how it will be when you download it, or if you download it from the cloud. And yeah, usually I go from row 3 to have all my effects on it, but this time, because of space and because of CPU, I split it across the cores so that it worked out. This will be output 3 and 4 just because that's how I route it to my interface, but you just change that to whatever your outputs are, or multi-outputs. This one is the hyperluminal, and as you can see here in my captures, that's the capture I've made, so that's the individual capture. This one is the Dane, which again, you'll get that if you download it. It will appear in your downloaded captures. You can see I've had to bring the level down a bit on this. I'm guessing it's because it's not routed for an amp. I've captured the pedal directly and then set the level to hit -12. And then I guess that's, I don't know, I'm not too technical on this side of things, but yeah, I've had to pull it back quite a lot to match a similar level to what the real thing's doing. Same on this one, not as much. So this is the Tube Screamer Mini, but again, I've changed none of these dials. That's all the same. It's just the volume I've pulled back slightly. But you'll see here that I've got 2 different versions of the amp. So this is the amp capture. Again, changed nothing on there. Basically, when I play it clean, I set my output. So you can see I've gone +2 dB there. And that makes sure I'm hitting this line without going into the red. So that gives me a good level. I think that's the best place to do that volume increase. If you do that on the actual amp, you are going to affect the tone. So leave that as it is. And then I've got another version of the amp, which again, I've kept the same. But this is capturing the Tube Screamer at the same time. I'll explain a bit of this when I'm playing it with a guitar in my hand, but basically I think this is the way to do it, especially if you're capturing a Tube Screamer, which I've heard can be a bit tricky to capture, mainly I think because you're pushing the mids of the noise, and when you're stacking noise on top of noise with a capture, yeah, it doesn't work as well. So remember, a pedal is to technically be used with an amplifier, and they marry well. Your pedal is affecting that tube sound, and it's giving one analog output signal. Basically, when the pedal's reacting with the amp, I think that's the way to do it, rather than capturing them individually like I'm doing here. So yeah, again, I'll show you the difference when I've got a guitar in my hand. And then this is the amp, as you can see, sorry, the cab. This is just a block. This will be in your Cortex control, in your Quad Cortex, just using a mono cab, and it's a US Twin C12, and apparently this is based on Jensen's as well, so as similar as I could get. And I'm using a 57 and a 160. The position, yeah, that might be slightly different, but the panning is exactly the same. I've just kept them centered. Now what you'll find on the patch as well is I've got a delay, a tape delay. That's because that's probably the closest one I could find to the delay pedal that I have on my pedal board. And obviously we're not capturing ambient effects, because I don't think you can. I haven't tried it. I wonder what it sound like, but yeah, I don't think you can. You could probably bake it into the amp sound. That would probably work, but then you've got absolutely no control of it, no mix or anything. And then this reverb is the plate. As you can see, I've kept it fairly low, like it is on the, where are we? The aux. Yeah, very, very similar mix. So yeah, that's how I've got it set up. Now, the way I set up the amp blocks, I use a hybrid mode up here, or in your QC. If we have a look at those, you can see I've got stomp pedals on the top 4 and scenes on the bottom 4. So I have on the top, that's assigned to foot switch A, B, C is my, what is this? The Tube Screamer. And then D, I've only got one left, so I save that for my delay, because reverb it's always on. I'm never really turning reverb off, so I leave that without a pedal assigned. And then you change between these two different amp types with how do I look at this? Oh yeah, so that's on scenes. So yeah, assign this to scenes, and then assign this to scenes as well. And then I've got, how do I show gig view here? So this scene here is this amp on, and then when I click onto scene F, it turns that amp on and turns that one, sorry, turns that amp on and that one off. And then I've still got control of all my pedals on top as well. So yeah, let's grab a guitar and I'll show you the sounds. Okay, so we're plugged in. First of all, I'm in the Victory. This is going through the aux. What we'll do, we'll just do clean channel first. I am limited on cable length at the moment, so I've got my pedal board in front of me and I've got my QC behind me, so you're just going to hear me unplugging cables, turning around, everything. But yeah, you will get a good A-B between the two then. So let's turn the compressor off. Usually that compressor's always on, but for the sake of this video, I'll turn it off for now and then show you both. So this is, yeah, Victory on its own through the aux box. Okay, so I'll unplug and then we'll hear the capture. Okay, so now we're plugged into the quad Cortex. This is the capture of the Victory. The only difference, is going to be exactly the same head settings. The only difference is obviously the cab sim. The Universal Audio aux box has its own way of emulating cab sounds. They don't call it IRs. And then I'm using a cab block in the QC, the closest one that I could find to match the Universal Audio one. But yeah, that's mainly going to be where you're going to hear differences. So pretty close, pretty close. This one's a bit brighter, I think. Cool, so let's turn the compressor on. So this is that hyperluminal dark glass compressor. Again, we're still on the QC at the moment, the capture. So it's a capture of that pedal as well. Just literally a individual pedal capture on its own, no amp involved. And then I've stacked that on top of the amp capture. And this is exactly how I like a compressor. You're probably not hearing any difference in the audio, but I can feel it. Okay, let's go back to the amp. Compressor on. Yeah, they sound pretty good to me. So I'm going to leave the compressor on from now on all of the patches. I say patches on each of the pedals. And we'll try the Dane now. So I haven't captured the boost side of the Dane because I very rarely use it. People are going to tell me in the comments that I should now. Convince me to use it. And then the drive. So here. Yes, I just love how beefy that sounds. Cool, let's try the capture of that. Yeah, it's pretty pretty loud, pretty gainy. I think this is what I was talking about with the stacking individual captures. It does sound like there's a lot more gain on that than the pedal reacting with the real amp, and that's probably because you're just stacking noise floors and saturation instead of it becoming one thing. It still sounds great, and you could still use it on, for example, an amp model. If I used an amp model from the QC and then used that as the drive, I think it's just a case of stacking two captures. But yeah, unfortunately, I haven't done a snapshot of that working with the amp as a capture. I have done it for the Tube Screamer though. So let's get onto the Tube Screamer. This is the QC. Sounds really good. What I did find when I captured this as an individual pedal and putting it on top of the capture of the amp was there was a bit of noise on top of the individual notes. Typical, I can't hear it now. But yeah, it's just a bit dirtier than when I'm listening to the pedal on its own. Sorry, not the pedal on its own, the pedal through the amp. Hear that? Yeah, it just sounds a bit dirtier. So that's what made me think, should I capture that pedal with the amp as well, and then have it as a scene, a separate scene. So the amp will essentially be the exact same settings, but with the Tube Screamer engaged. So let's try that real quick. So yeah, that's it on its own. Sorry, as a pedal block, essentially, as a capture. And then this is the amp and the Tube Screamer captured together. Yeah, I just realised I've been using one pickup the whole time. I think that sounds better, marginally. But yeah, it does seem to sound more one. Yeah, a bit less noisy on that top. Okay, so let's try the actual Tube Screamer through the actual amp. I do think that sounds more similar than having the individual pedal on its own. And when I keep saying this, I mean the individual capture of the pedal, not reacting with the amp. But yeah, this sounds good. And just because we haven't turned it off in a while, this is with the compressor off. I have to play harder. Try with the boost on. I haven't captured this boost, by the way. Yeah, I need to muck around with the settings. But yeah, that's it. That's the whole pedal board, and it captured into the QC. So hopefully you can tell no difference at all. That would be good. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm really enjoying making this content at the moment. I made a New Year's resolution that I was going to keep YouTube going. And at the moment, since then, I've been doing a video a week. So yeah, with a full-time job and 2 kids, one of them very young, plus writing my own EP, my solo project, it's been tough and busy, but I'm going to keep at it. This may be the last video that I do on the QC for a little while, because yeah, I've been doing a few of those. But it's been good seeing that people have been engaging with it. I've been enjoying chatting to you guys in the comments. And yeah, it's something I'm quite passionate about. I really, really like the Quad Cortex, so I've been doing some videos on it, and obviously the John Mayer buzz around that plugin that's being released. But yeah, I may get back into doing some more covers as well. I mean, that's how this channel started. I don't know if it was this exact channel. I might have ported some videos over from a channel that I lost, but I started YouTube on the year it came out. So when YouTube first begun, I started putting covers up on my old Nokia phone. So yeah, it's a bit different now, but I may go back to that because a lot of my biggest videos on here, or the ones with the most views, are covers of me just playing guitar over songs that didn't have guitar on them. So I think one of the biggest ones was a Michael Jackson cover I did. So yeah, check out some of my old videos. They're not going to be the quality of this, but yeah, they were good fun to make. And yeah, if you guys have any ideas of what you'd like to see content-wise, I can try and do my best to make some videos on it. But yeah, all ideas are welcome because it gives me ideas to keep doing this. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be some more sort of tutorial stuff that I put out soon. And yeah, even me demoing some of how I've made some of my songs. If you guys have enjoyed listening to some of my original music, I say some, there's only one single out at the moment, Why Wait? So if you want to check that out, there's a video, a playthrough of that on my channel. But yeah, there's a new single coming out on Friday, the 6th of February. So yeah, there's going to be a bunch more videos coming soon and playthroughs to promote that. So keep an eye out for that single release. It's called Shoot, Don't Talk. So yeah, thanks again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you in the next one.